everybody, it's Tuesday, April 1st, 2025. Welcome to the NFL Fantasy Football Podcast, where we can be fools more than just one day of the year. It's me, your man, MG Marcus Grant, joined by Michael Florio and Laquan Jones. Happy April? Florio, Laquan, have you guys gotten got by any April Fool's jokes today on the interwebs?
I don't think I've gotten got yet. I have laughed a lot this morning, though, seeing other people get got or and some funny jokes, stuff like that. But I'm very skeptical today. I read anything and I'm like, is this true? I don't know.
I have not gotten got because I've been on the internet for 25 years. There's nothing on the internet that I truly believe. So no, I have not been getting got.
I mean, I think that's probably the way to go, right? It's like, I just don't believe anything on the internet. I think that,
all fake to me, and at the end of the day.
That's a double-edged sword, right? Like, on the one hand, it prevents you from getting fooled by things. But on the other hand, every once in a while, something true actually is said on the internet.
The fake insiders pages really get me. Like the Tom Pelisseros that are spelled differently with the Pelissero, and then the Rappaports with the extra P. It's like, come on, how old are we now?
Yeah, that's the hard part. It's like the Rap Shield or something like that. Accounts that tend to get people.
Those pranks were funny when you had to actually earn a blue check and work for changing your profile. Now it's just literally anyone could do it, and it's not funny anymore.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing is that for most of us now, it's just the humor has worn off. We can stop. We don't have to do this. I'm not in the third grade anymore. I don't have to do April Fool's jokes,
Although I do laugh whenever one of those posts makes its way onto television. That always makes me laugh.
Yeah. Or when, somebody is being interviewed for the news and they give them a fake name and somehow that makes it onto the graphic and that sort of thing. So for sure. We got a lot to talk about. We are going to start our positional breakdowns of the NFL draft, and why not start at quarterback? Kind of an interesting group to talk about. So we'll dive into those. And Laquan finished Severance last week. So
let's go.
We can get his thoughts on
Team
Audi Mark, and he's not talking about a luxury car. He's instead talking about the folks at Microdata Refinement. So we'll dive into that too. Spoiler alert for folks who maybe haven't finished season 2 yet. We'll let you know when we get there. But I want to start with some news because there have been some headlines popping up, especially because today the competition committee has basically come up with any rules changes that they're going to see for the next season and beyond. The one that was getting a lot of headlines that is not being changed, or at least banned for now, is the tush push. That is going to stay as it is. That's despite the Packers, the Bills, and several other teams really making a push, no pun intended, to have the rule banned. Player safety was being touted as the reason for that. And I don't know, Florio, really, do we really buy that player safety was the reason they don't want the tush push in existence?
I did see McDermott in an interview yesterday talking about it and saying how the data backs it up and how he knows it's been a very successful play for his team. But if there's data that shows that it's putting his players in harm's way, he's going to be against it. And I'll say this, I'm not a doctor. I haven't looked at any of this data. I'm not going to argue against player safety. If you come to me and you prove that this play is really dangerous, okay, sure, I'm cool without it. I don't think that's what this is at all. First, I think McDermott is being against the tush push, but he's going to be but the Buffalo snowplow is still legal, right? But more than anything, you have Sirianni literally rallying his former OCs to be keep this play legal and stuff. To me, it just feels like the Eagles are elite at it and no one can stop it. And the Bills are as close to elite on it as you can be. And only the Chiefs could really stop them with it. If every team had a guy like that, I'd be sure, okay, we don't need this play. But it's just two teams that are doing it at this high of a rate and this successfully. So my comp was that'd be if you were everyone but Steph Curry could shoot threes or Aaron Judge can't hit home runs anymore because he's too good at it. I don't know. To me, this just feels like a play that most teams can't stop. And they're going to take their ball and go home if they can't stop it. And I'm like, figure a way out. The Chiefs did, right? Like do something to figure it out.
Well, the Chiefs figured it out basically because Josh Allen decided he can't go right. Like he just kept going left the whole time.
2 years in a row, he's only gone left, and one team figured that out. Like,
yeah.
I mean, like
I have takes and frustration on this, man.
Okay, well, I'm here for your takes and frustration.
First off, between Aaron Rodgers and the tush push, I am like over both of them. Can we stop with the tush push? Can we stop with Aaron Rodgers? Just get it over with. Just ban it. Like, get rid of it. Like, I'm tired of talking about it, and now we have to wait until May, conveniently right before fantasy drafts, where we decide if Jalen Hurts is going to get hit or knocked or up and down. Like, I don't even want to get into it because the play is the play. There is some player safety dynamic to it because my doppelganger, Chris Jones, was hurt in the Super Bowl. He hurt his neck. So I'm like, there is no real data because we haven't been tracking it. But just ask the players in trenches, like, do they want a rugby style move in the game? Like, aesthetically, it looks disgusting. It just looks like a mash of people just going in one direction, and it's unstoppable. A 76% success rate last season that the Eagles had on the tush push. That's incredible. That's great. But then it's like, this is constantly going to be back and forth about the thing. Just get rid of it. I'm done with it. Like, that's just my take on it.
Maybe there is some player safety involved in this. I don't think that is the primary driving factor for why this has come up, why this has become a
I think
thing.
the wrong coach brought it to the table for that, though. Like, McDermott, you ran it 4 times against the Chiefs, 0-4, and you just can't perfect it. Like,
maybe he brought it up to be saved from himself, right? Like, hey, maybe I need to be.
He did say, he was like, look, if it's legal, we're gonna keep doing it. Like,
yeah, they had more success faking the tush push in that game than actually doing it. So I think you should fake it, if anything, and go for it.
I mean, meanwhile, you have Aaron Glenn on the other side who says, look, I'm a defensive coach. My job is to come up with ways to stop this play. And I think when we look at this version of it, right? Because Tom Brady was great at sneaks. That was a big part of his career. If it was 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, or less than that, you knew the Patriots were going to line up and sneak it, and Brady was going to get it 98% of the time. I think with this version of it, it's a moment in time. It's a moment in time with a quarterback who squats 650 pounds or whatever it is that Jalen Hurts does. He's not always going to be this strong. They aren't always going to be able to run this play as successfully as they do. I think you try and find a way to stop it as much as possible, but understand that this is a relatively short period of time that this thing is going to be as successful as it is. Now, if there are numbers that come out and say that the game is considerably safer without the tush push in there, then I will stand down on this. But I think there are a lot of things that the league could be doing that would be considerably safer for players in the long run that no one is talking about because Thursday Night Football makes a lot of money. So I just, I think if this is what we're doing, if this is what we're arguing, let's just be blunt about what we are actually arguing. That's all.
And
the truth of the part of this is, I'll say real quick, the other part of this, it doesn't mean it's getting banned. It could be tweaked. That's it.
Yeah.
Those two teams are still going to be insanely successful at 1-yard runs because of their quarterbacks and the other team that does it well is the Ravens. What do all 3 of those teams have in common? They have huge, empowering offensive line. Like, they are a team built around strengths and they're utilizing those strengths. So, like, I don't know. I feel like you're trying to punish a team just because other teams can't do it.
Yeah. No, I completely agree.
First thing I did, Laquan, was I went to see if the Eagles had a successful tush push against the Rams in the playoffs.
And I believe they did. Sean McVay's against it as well. He doesn't want it in the game. Banned it. And I side with Coach. That's my boy. I'm riding with him. Banned it.
So Sean McVay was like, yeah, man, we're running it with Matthew Stafford. Keep it in the game. You'd be like, yeah, let's keep it in the game.
No, I honestly, no. I will go against him because Stafford does not need to leave the pocket. We saw him break his ribs against your
So
great.
if the Rams had Jalen Hurts.
No comment.
There we go. We got it. One of the rules that is being tweaked heading into next year, the owners have voted to adjust the ball spot on touchbacks to the 35-yard line on the dynamic kickoffs. I know last summer, LQ, you spent a lot of time kind of diving into this and trying to figure out what it would mean and whether or not we should pay attention to it for fantasy. I honestly thought your work on it was really, really good. It turned out that, it didn't work out the way you had anticipated necessarily. So does this, do you think, make a difference at all?
Not really. I think it's good. Like, I took this as a win because it's not like they're getting rid of it completely. Like, oh, it didn't work out, we're going back to the old style. They're trying to tweak things and penalize the kicker now. Like, we're honestly going to see more returns now. Like, nobody wants to set up the opposing team like the Bills or the Ravens or the Chiefs or anybody on a 35. No way. So let's try to implement more of like a return specialist. Like, I would love to see, like, again, I go back, Devon Achane, Tyreek Hill, the speedsters back there, to make a huge impact, and I want to see more of this like evolve as time goes on. So I'm glad they're not getting rid of it completely. They're just making some changes to it to where it could set up a team in more scoring opportunities, a team that struggles getting out of that 20 now. You set the Browns up on the 35, you might get some points. So it all depends, Yeah,
I will admit that the dynamic kickoff, I think, has been kind of a dud. Really, at least in terms of excitement. I know that, again, a big driving factor was safety, that a lot of injuries happen on kickoffs, and this has taken a good chunk of that out of the game. So that is a positive. But in terms of, I think, actual excitement for the play, I don't see it.
I'm going to get my crystal ball. I think the Lions are going to be the ones to mess with it because I think Dan Quinn, he seems like a guy that just will tweak it and just be like, all right, let's try some trickery, and like he will be aggressive. So I'm just doing the crystal ball. It's going to be the Lions.
I'm surprised the Ravens necessarily haven't done more. I mean, John Harbaugh very famously was a special teams coach before he became a head coach, and yeah, I'm just shocked that maybe they haven't been a team.
Where's John Fossil at now? Is he still with the Cowboys? Bones.
I don't know where Bones Fossil is at the moment. To be perfectly honest with you. The Google says he's with the Titans.
So, Titans. Okay. All right. Let's get a little tricky. Tajay Spears back there.
Maybe John Fossil has something up his sleeve. I guess we will wait and find out.
I wonder if we're going to see bigger name play. Because to your point, Laquan, like the Lions could do a lot of fun stuff. They also have Jahmyr Gibbs, who's a running back who can see the holes and is the fastest dude on the field most of the time. Like, I imagine, like, I know you don't want players taking extra hits, and that was the case for so long. But like in a situation like this, I feel like Jahmyr Gibbs might be the best person suited for this type of play. And like, I would love it. That alone would make it more exciting for me, seeing some of these more dynamic players getting the ball in these kind of touches.
Yeah, man. Just wait until they announce that Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be returning kicks and watch fantasy freak out. Remember when Kyron Williams was going to be a nothing because he was supposed to run back punts?
Yeah, I bought into that.
I didn't really buy into that so much. I actually just thought Blake Corum was going to have more of a role.
His first injury in the league was on kickoff. He hurt his ankle, and then it kind of derailed his rookie season. So I was just kind of having PTSD there. That's why I bought him.
Did he do it all year for you guys?
No, he barely even did it last year. It was one of the things that was said, and it never happened.
Yeah, right? I thought that was the case, but that's like so funny to me.
Games, and then after that, I was like, all right, whatever. That was weird.
I'm not paying attention to any of those reports this summer.
No. Mm-mm.
All right, I'm going to mark that down on April 1st.
No reaction. It'll be like July 12th, and nothing will be going on, and I'll be like, hey guys, did you see that they're going to have like Tyreek Hill return kicks? I might be out on him now.
Well, I'm surprised we haven't even mentioned this in news. Him tweeting the peace sign. Like, what is that about?
I don't know.
I mean,
it's April Fool's. He might.
It wasn't today though.
It. Oh, it wasn't.
No, that's what I'm like. I don't know.
I have long since given up trying to divine things via cryptic social media posts. Like I can't anymore. I know there are people out there who try to read into it. Probably the same people who keep track of what teams and players certain guys are following. Like that's another thing that feels like a full-time job that I don't want.
Who do you think is going to wipe the socials of the team this season? Like,
yeah, that's the thing. It's just like, and like, I don't know how people know this. People seem to report on this like almost immediately. And I guess there's an app or something. That's all I can figure is that there's an app that lets you know that. Cause I don't I'm not going to go through every NFL player's social media and keep track of who they are.
Oh, you know what the app is called? It's called Touch Grass. That's what the app is called. Stop the madness.
There was a millisecond where I was like, they made an app. Oh, so yeah, we'll see. Other thing, not that it has anything to do with fantasy, but I just found this interesting. They have changed the rules towards celebrations. They have banned some, including the nose wipe celebration. Now, maybe I'm out of the loop, which is certainly possible. This feels like, are you guys familiar with the Streisand effect at all?
No.
So the Streisand effect, the short version of it is, once upon a time, somebody posted a photo. It had to do with actually like land erosion and, you know, soil and that sort of thing. But it was a cliffside in Malibu. In the picture was Barbra Streisand's house. It was up on the internet for a long time. Nobody ever downloaded it until her attorneys sued the photographer for invasion of privacy. And then everybody became aware of this photo and started downloading it, right? Like before the lawsuit, I think it had like 6 downloads. After the lawsuit, it had like 500,000 downloads. The Streisand effect being calling attention to something that nobody was previously paying attention to and now having everybody pay attention to it.
Yep.
I was unaware of this nose wipe celebration. Like I don't think I ever noticed it. I never paid attention to it. Then I saw a whole bunch of posts about it being banned, and I immediately went to Google to look up what it was. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm the one who just has been slow on the uptake here. But this really felt like a whole nothing thing that the league has made into a thing now. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
I knew the celebration. I didn't know what it meant. I know, Laquan, you said you were waiting for this day to come, but
yeah.
Not only the Streisand effect, Marcus, because for me, I always like that's like the How I Met Your Mother glass breaking moment in the show where like you notice something and you can't now unnotice it and stuff. Mm-hmm. But like things change over time, right? Like this had a meaning in the past, but now if kids do it and stuff, they're doing it because like CD Lamb was doing it.
CD Lamb did
like,
it. Right.
It's CD celebration, right? So let things change naturally. And then it's like, it becomes one of those funny stories where it's like, once upon a time, this used to be this, but now society has just made it this.
Yeah, I mean, look, if everybody was boo-hooing back when Soulja Boy cranked that and then they actually understand what the song is about, then they will be banning it back then. But it's more so just don't cause attention to it. But again, kids were looking at it as a CD Lamb celebration. I don't see the need to go and nitpick and pick out certain things that people were doing to celebrate. Like pretty soon you're going to have to just have your hands in your pocket when you make a big play. I think it's foolish.
Yeah. Again, it just felt like a whole thing that wasn't really a big deal and now is kind of a bigger deal.
Yeah.
But yeah,
now more kids are going to do it.
My personal favorite celebration is when players just like ironically handshake because they know like if I do anything else, I'm going to get a flag.
Yeah. One thing I do want them to officially put in the rule book, because it seems to be an unofficial rule, is that apparently you can't move the chains unless the ball carrier stands up and signals first down. Like, I just think that it must be a rule, right? Because it always happens. It seems to always happen.
I'm down to make that a rule, but I'm also down that if you indicate first down and you are short, it's a 5-yard penalty.
Ooh, I like that.
Because we've had players get a yard and they get up and they're like, and it's like 2nd and 9 and they're playing. It's like, what are you
doing? Oh my goodness, that would be great. So as we start more in-depth draft prep, we will dive into the quarterbacks here. And I broke them down into 3 different tiers, and we can sort of talk about guys within these tiers. We don't have to touch on each individual one because then this pod would probably be another hour and a half long on top of what we've already done.
Spoiler alert, I put LOL for tier 3.
You know what? That's fair. We'll discuss that when we get to it. But
you can't see it.
In tier 1 right now, I've got 2 guys in tier 1. It's Cam Ward, it's Shedeur Sanders. And part of what's sort of interesting here, it's looking more and more like Cam Ward is probably going to be a Tennessee Titan. That's slowly becoming the consensus that he's going to be the first player selected and will push Will Levis out of a job down there in Tennessee. Shedeur Sanders is sort of an interesting piece because he could go 2, he could go 3, he could fall maybe a couple spots after that. Somebody could trade up. We have no idea what's going to happen. The one thing we do know, the New York Giants went out and signed a couple of veteran free agent quarterbacks. They went and added Jameis Winston. We did a whole thing on this show, and we had to have it scrubbed because hours later they went and signed Russell Wilson to a deal. So they have those two guys. But the talk from the front office, whether it's head coach Brian Daboll or it's GM Joe Schoen, is that they aren't necessarily out of the market for a quarterback with the number 3 overall pick. So potentially Shedeur Sanders is still in play. Sanders also met with the Cleveland Browns, who have the number 2 overall pick in this draft. But let's sort of stick with the Giants here, Florio, because that was a big part of our conversation last week. What would they do? Would they still take a quarterback? Would they not? Let's say the Giants decide to make the move. And let's say, for the sake of argument, because otherwise, that sort of ruins the whole premise of this pod, that he ends up as a starting quarterback. Is this a good thing for Malik Nabers? Because that is our primary concern in New York.
Yes, I don't see any way, shape, or form where this QB room would be bad for Malik Nabers, who, again, put up elite fantasy numbers last year with Daniel Jones, Tommy DeVito, Drew Lock, and Tim Boyle. Like, a room of Russell Wilson, Shedeur Sanders, and Jameis Winston devours that QB room from last season. And I think they're still in the market because they didn't really spend a whole lot of years or money or anything on those guys. But I do think Sanders would be a good thing because we have seen that if you could get the ball in the vicinity of Malik Nabers, he is more than likely going to make a play, do something special, win after the catch, all of that. And Shedeur is very accurate. So I think, and he's a good anticipatory thrower. He's got good timing. I think touch all of that. Like, I think that he would be able to, there'd be a nice connection there with Malik Nabers. And what I like even more than anything is, of all of these college quarterbacks, literally no one was more under pressure last year than Shedeur Sanders. So he could come in and kind of be a little bit more equipped to handle that Giants O-line and the problems that it could create at times. But yeah, I think for me, regardless of who the quarterback for the Giants is going to be at week 1, I think the arrow is pointing up for Malik Nabers heading into 2025.
Yeah, I mean, look, I watched more of Shedeur that first year in Colorado than I did necessarily the second year. I watched a little bit. Certainly the prevailing belief is that sacks can be a QB stat as much as it can be an offensive line stat. And I do think while he does have experience being under pressure, playing behind a shaky O-line, there's a little bit of it that also fell on his shoulders.
He holds the ball
He holds the ball a long time. And I think that's going to be an issue, certainly at the next level where your pass rushers are even bigger and faster and stronger than what he saw in college over the last couple of years. Let's flip this though. Let's say, Laquan, that maybe the Browns end up pulling the trigger on Shedeur at 2, especially when you have owner Jimmy Haslam coming out and basically saying, hey, my bad. We sort of effed up the Deshaun Watson thing. Also that he threw his wife under the bus. He also threw his wife under the bus and the whole thing. He's like, yeah, D and I had a problem. And I'm sure if I'm D Haslam, I'm like, hey, me? Like, I'm the meme of the guy holding the beer, like, me? Like what? Like what?
Like what did I do?
Right.
Has an owner ever called out a player like this, by the way? Like, it was bad.
Yeah.
Sheesh.
But you know what? It seems to be sort of late, right? Because they went through a few years of this, and now that it looks like Deshaun Watson's career is probably done after multiple injuries. It seems like an easy way out now to be like, yeah, I'm sorry, I messed up, right? And it's easy to do now that it's easy to move on from him. It's a lot harder to do when you're in the middle of it. But is this a good thing in Cleveland, right? I mean, we saw Jerry Jeudy, Laquan, kind of break out near the end of last year. David Njoku has had some moments in his career as well. Is Shedeur a good fit for either of those guys?
It could be. Like, it's honestly a situation I hope doesn't happen for fantasy, because I absolutely want the height of Sanders to have a career outside of Cleveland, because honestly, they have a bad resume of first round quarterbacks. Like, honestly, Baker Mayfield, God bless his soul to be able to make it out of there and get another contract and research his career. But you got the Johnny Manziels of the world and all that stuff that just hasn't worked out for them selecting quarterback in the first round. So honestly, with Sanders there, it's like, all right, what are the building pieces? You still don't have your answers at the running back position. Your O-line is decent, but you got David Njoku, Jerry Jeudy. Great. These are your weapons, but is this going to push him to fantasy relevance in his first year? No. I wouldn't be interested drafting Shedeur Sanders there. I would be interested more, even with that crowded room in New York, to grab him in redrafts or whatever the case may be, or whatever the kids are calling them, super flex leagues, whatever, the crazy leagues that we're all in. But more so, saying that, if he ends up in Cleveland and he's the starter, I'm just totally turned off of the whole situation where it's just like, all right, back to square one. They'll be drafting another quarterback in the next 3, 4, 5 years. So that'll be the situation, which will be unfortunate for him.
So you sort of answered the question I had, whether or not he'd be usable in redraft leagues. And I'm kind of with you that I don't know that I would want to draft Shedeur Sanders, but I'm mostly curious in what he does with the people around him. But I do ask, because you talk about it, Laquan, you said you want him to have a good career. Is this a Cleveland thing? Because it can't be a talent thing, right? Like, they've drafted talented players. This seems to be an organizational thing.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
I'd argue that, like, this is one of the worst. Like, last year we were all like, Bears, best landing spot for a rookie quarterback. And we know that didn't play out how we all envisioned. But, like, for the Browns, it's got to be one of the worst landing spots ever for a rookie quarterback, because you have so much money tied into Deshaun already. They're paying Myles Garrett like what teams are paying elite quarterbacks. Like, I understand he's worth it and all, but it's just the money is all spent elsewhere and not on the offensive side of the ball. That like
even look at the setup for a young developing quarterback. Your backup is Kenny Pickett. What is he learning? Oh, I got traded. Like, Jesus, like, I don't understand. Like,
here's how to bounce back after you don't live up to expectations in the first round.
Yeah, like, he needs somebody like a room of New York. Like, he can develop with Russell Wilson to learn the ins and outs. Russell has been in the trenches for years now. And Winston, he's a spiritual, like, upbeat coach, like, he can get him just like, laughing and giggling and stuff and being good spirits when they're losing. But it's more so of like, the situation has to be right. And you have to get it right with the landing spot for these young quarterbacks, because we've seen them fall on their face just by being in a bad organization and situation.
That Giants QB room, they praise Kier for sure.
I had to pause for a second because I was envisioning in my head Jameis Winston after football being like a life coach. And just like, he would say things to you that you're like, I don't know what that means, but you really seem convicted and positive about it. So I'm just going to kind of roll with it.
I don't think he's ever had a bad day in his life. I don't. Even all the interceptions in Tampa, he threw every one with a smile.
He very much seems like a guy that everything just kind of rolls off of him, right? He just, like, even if it was bad in the moment, he does just seem like it just seems like a guy like, hey, tomorrow's a new day. The next pass is a new pass. And we're just gonna roll with it. It definitely.
If you guys haven't seen it, the year the Bucs were on Hard Knocks, they did like a thing where he like went back to where he grew up and stuff, and that is his attitude. But it's really cool to see why. So like, as much as I love Jameis jokes and stuff, like it is a good watch if you guys.
We are a Jameis pod, man. I'm telling you,
we are a pro Jameis pod for sure. Flora, I do want to ask you though, but if we talk about Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, they're the two guys at the top of this draft class. Where do you think they would have fit had they been eligible or available to come out last year?
So I think this is a really good question. I think, look, no one, a year later, we could all have our opinions on Caleb. No one was going to top Caleb as a prospect in last year's class. Like, I loved Daniels. I remember being like, Daniels is closer to Caleb than he is the rest of the group. So to me, those would still be my top two. I think Cam Ward would fit into a tier with Drake May, where you're like, this guy has the physical ability. Like, everything is there. I'm also never the person that tries to get in the mind of a quarterback, because these teams have spent millions and millions of dollars to make it a science. And at best, they're 50-50. So like, when I watch quarterbacks, I'm just looking at physical ability and stuff. I think Ward fits in that group where like all of the talent and the skill set is there. Some stuff he needs to work on though at the next level. And then I would put Sanders for me, because I had May third, and I think Ward slides in that tier. Then I had like Knicks and JJ McCarthy in a tier. I think Sanders goes in that tier. And for me, that was this guy could play. I think he's an NFL caliber quarterback. The physical skills aren't elite. Like, you're not going to watch, like, I watch Cam Ward and I'm like, if this guy, everything breaks right for him, he could get to a point where he's putting up numbers like a Lamar or Allen. And maybe that's too high, but like the skill set is there. Sanders, I don't think has that, but like he could be a very good NFL quarterback if the pieces around him are good, I think.
Laquan, would you rather have Michael Penix or Shedeur Sanders? No, I know Bo Nix.
I'm sorry.
That's why I know it's just like breathing for you. Bo Nix. That's why I was gonna say Michael Penix or Shedeur Sanders. Which one would you rather build around?
I'm taking Shedeur. I have Shedeur a little bit higher actually. He was like kind of closer to Ward when you go look at how I have it on the list. It's Caleb, obviously Jaden, and then I got Ward, and then I got Sanders. And I say Sanders only because of that football IQ. He understands the game. He understands how to go out there and adapt. And you see it. He goes to programs that are unknown, and he was able to make it known. He goes to programs that didn't really have the right pieces that were, the offensive line was his biggest problem. He still went out there to be accurate and to be talked about as a top 2 prospect. So it's like one of those situations where it's like, I want the guy that knows the game, that lives and breathes the game, and can go out there and execute when given the information. If he ends up in Cleveland, this does not work out. But anyway, more so looking at it, I think he will be above like some of the JJ McCarthy's, the Michael Penix, that we're seeing now develop.
The Bo Nix?
Right behind him on the list just because we can't have ties, but it's just more so looking at what he brings to the table as an overall quarterback.
Yeah, Penix was the one for me where I was like, he and Sanders were sort of neck and neck in my mind. I would think that, if we're looking at the whole picture, I think because of age and injury history, right? Michael Penix had a pretty lengthy injury history during his time at college. He was a little bit of an older prospect. I think that would probably give Shedeur a slight edge for me, but I thought they were very similar, I think, in terms of their outlook, their potential career outlook. I think I would probably take Sanders. I might take him ahead of JJ McCarthy. Only because
I'm cool with that.
I just because I think McCarthy is still such an unknown, right? Obviously, he had success at Michigan. They won a national championship, but also what he was asked to do in college, I think is going to be significantly different than what he's going to be asked to do in the NFL. And again, I'm not saying he can't. I just don't know. Whereas at least I have a body of work for Shedeur Sanders. I've seen what he can do. I think I've seen his full arsenal. I think there's room to grow, but I've seen the basic totality of his skill set at this point. So that's kind of where I would take them. Tier 2, and a good number of guys. Jackson Dart, who I think is sort of on that cusp of tier 1 and tier 2, because there's a lot of talk about him getting pulled up, not just into the first round, but maybe fairly high in the first round. I've seen mock drafts where it goes Ward, Sanders, Dart in the first 3 picks, which feels very aggressive to me, but
yeah.
I could see him being a first rounder, but top 3 is insane to me.
That feels very aggressive. So I got Jackson Dart in tier 2, Tyler Shuck, which if you have seen it spelled Shough, it is pronounced Shuck. Quinn Ewers, Jalen Milroe, Kyle McCord, Dylan Gabriel. My question is, which guy makes the biggest leap up draft boards? And for you, Laquan, I'm going to say which non-Jalen Milroe guy makes the biggest leap up draft boards? Because I know how you feel about Milroe. Yeah. I'm assuming that's the guy you like the most out of this group. Is there somebody else?
I was going to say Quinn Ewers, but then you see his pro day and he's throwing ducks up there. So it's like, I'm not too sure what the NFL, space thinks about where he can fit in. I don't look at him as a day 1 starter, but when we're really talking about these quarterback prospects, you hear the consensus, this is not a quarterback draft, but you have to make do with what's out there. The Dylan Gabriels of the world, the Will Howards, like these guys are going to find landing spots and there's going to be some upsides. Like I don't really see that much of a leap from anybody under Jalen Milroe in the Jackson Dart tier. So it's more so of like, these guys are going to have to land in these spots with the right coaching staff and all, et cetera, et cetera. But Quinn Ewers, man, he would probably be the closest to, I would think, make a leap just based on, last year with the Texas and Longhorns. And I feel like he has some accuracy issues, but he does have somewhat of an arm.
Which of these guys do you like the most, Florio?
I mean, it would be Dart, but I think Dart is firmly the QB3 in this class. So outside of him, I for fantasy, I 100% am with LQ. Like Jalen Milroe, his upside is so high because he's so fast. He's such a good runner. He has a strong arm, but he needs a lot of work before I think he can be an NFL starter. Like I don't like LQ said, I don't think he's a day one NFL starter. Someone who stood out to me, Tyler Shuck. I think he's a little underrated. I know he doesn't have like the best physical skill set. Like he doesn't have the strongest arm. He's a good athlete, not a great athlete, but he's mobile enough where he could beat people with his legs in a chain moving sense. He's never going to be the guy running for 20, 30 yards. He kind of reminded me of Ryan Fitzpatrick. He's a gunslinger who doesn't realize he doesn't have the gunslinger arm, but there's not a throw that he doesn't think he can make. So to me, I think he's fun. I think he's got some upside, but really, I think Dart is the only one of these guys that has a chance of being a long-term starter. I think this class is going to present a lot of like quality backups. And look, kudos to these guys because being a backup quarterback is the best job in the world. But I just don't know if it has enough high-end upside for these guys to become starters.
Fun fact, Tyler Shuck was a backup to Justin Herbert at Oregon. Like many years ago. Like he is.
Wait a second.
This is like in 2018, he was a backup to.
Yeah, he's 25 years old, so
he's been around for a while.
Got his own insurance.
He does. He's
he's 2 years younger than Justin Herbert. A year and a half, actually.
Because in fact, if I remember correct, he actually got to Oregon the same time as Penei Sewell. They were in the same recruiting class.
This guy's old.
He's a little bit experienced. Yes, he's been around a lot. And I know. Look, I know that sometimes draft Twitter or draft Blue Sky or whatever you want to call it can be, I don't know, how do you say?
Ageist,
but also unorthodox too, right? Because at the beginning of this whole process, I did see a lot of people propping up Tyler Shuck, right? And I think it goes both ways. You definitely see a lot of people who are like, he's old, I'm out. But a lot of people who sort of looked at him and looked at kind of his skill set and really just kind of ignored the numbers. Because if you look at the stats, there's nothing that blows you away statistically about Tyler Shuck. He had a good final season, his third senior year, which was at Louisville, nearly 3,200 yards that season. But before that, never really got enough playing time, whether it was at Oregon or Texas Tech, to really make much of an impact. But a lot of people kind of were sucked into that final year. And, I even saw somebody, and again, this might be a little reactionary, suggest that he probably should be considered in the top 3 quarterbacks in this class. Again, a little aggressive for my taste, but I know that got me all choked up. I know that thought process was out there a little bit. But it would seem like, Florio, that Milroe has the most fantasy upside. Yeah. Is that fair?
Yeah, because what he can do as a runner, I mean, he's a better runner than Sanders, than Ward. He's the best running quarterback in this draft class, and I don't think it's even close. Like, at the very least, if he doesn't work out as a quarterback, like, find ways to get this guy the ball in hand. Like, let him do trick plays, something, because like he's a phenomenal athlete. But the whole time we were talking about Shuck's age, Marcus, I had 2 thoughts in mind. One, this Auburn team that's in the Final Four right now, it's a team of grown men going up against 18-year-olds. So like it's kind of similar to that. But Brandon Weeden was what I kept thinking of, because that's my favorite quarterback story of all time.
But like Brandon Weeden at least left school to go play baseball for a while. Like he wasn't just like hanging around.
Baseball failed, and he was like, you know what? I'll be a college quarterback again. I'll get drafted at 28.
Yeah, I think.
And where did he go?
Oklahoma State.
To the Browns.
No, you mean that part. Yeah.
That was one that I think everyone knew immediately, like, yeah, this isn't going to work out.
No, I'm sorry. You made the wrong decision.
Yeah.
Need a ball again.
Yeah, that one for sure didn't quite work out, though. So, we didn't even mention like Kyle McCord, Dylan Gabriel. I think these are guys who are, I think they're sort of destined to be career backups at best. I would think in
a lot
the
of
NFL.
screens in both. Like I was excited to see McCord.
Where should you put the tier 3 quarterbacks versus the 2021 quarterback draft?
2021?
Yes. The Mac Joneses of the world.
Oh, yeah, that was a rough year.
We should do that.
Which if I, so by the way, just me patting myself on the back, kind of propping up my own work. Every year, I'm fortunate to do a little thing that shows up on YouTube called Hit, Miss, or Meh, where I go through the first round of the draft for certain years, and I determine whether or not each player, as the title suggests, was a hit, a miss, or a meh. The one that's due to come out very soon is the 2021 draft year, and I mean, let's go the first 5 picks. Trevor Lawrence. Meh. Zach Wilson? Miss. Trey Lance?
Miss.
Yikes.
Kyle Pitts?
Meh.
Meh.
See, you guys are sick. You're still on the train. Get off of it.
He had 1,000-yard season as a rookie. Like, meh?
Nope.
Meh?
Nope.
Jamar Chase, easily a hit.
Yeah.
Meh.
Jamar Chase is a hit. You're gonna get so much hate from Bengals fans for that
one. You should have slipped that one in there. Like Jamar Chase, clearly a miss.
Yeah, miss. See what happens. We keep going. Like number 6, Jalen Waddle, I think is a hit.
Wow.
Penei Sewell, certainly a hit.
Yeah.
J.C. Horn, probably a hit.
He just got paid, right? Yeah.
He just got paid. Pat Surtain, the second, a hit for sure.
Yeah.
And then number 10, Devonta Smith, I would say a hit. So look, once you get past the top 4 picks,
things start to break.
The rest of the top 10 looks pretty good. Yeah, so there it is.
Did the Rams have a pick in that one, or is that when they were just selling?
I think that's when they were like that's when they were F them picks.
Yeah, we were.
They did not have a first round pick. That's when
last year was our first one in the McVay era.
The draft is more fun when you have picks.
Yeah.
It's more fun when you can watch the first day.
Les Snead just didn't want to show up on Thursday. He's like, you know what? I'll show up on Friday. We'll be fine.
Are we getting LQ to the Rams house this year?
What?
Are we getting you to the Rams house?
Oh, if we can get that done, absolutely. Yes.
More Rams house content from you.
We have to. If we can't get it done, you got to find a way to sneak in, man. Like McVay walks in and you're just on the couch.
I'll bum rush the door.
That content would be great content. Just on
you got to wear a
GoPro
as you do it though.
There it is.
Yes, I probably will. Just make sure you got bail money.
Real quick, the tier 3 of quarterbacks that I have here: Riley Leonard, Will Howard, Max Brosmer, Curtis Rourke, Brady Cook. You've already said LOL, so I know how you feel about this.
Yeah,
Florio, any maybe dynasty guys here? I mean, we're not talking about redraft, but any guys who, maybe break through this thing for dynasty?
Maybe Riley Leonard. I was talking to a friend of mine last night who's a big Notre Dame fan, and he was like, he's not great as a passer, but he's a good runner. He was like, I think his ceiling is maybe being like a Taysom Hill gadget type player, but I'm like, that's something that at least has fantasy relevance, right? I think when we're getting this deep in a class where I already don't like the QB2 guys to be starters, right, that we're really scraping the barrel here.
Yeah, that's probably fair. But maybe the Broncos draft him and Sean Payton figures out something to do with him.
Did he fix Zach Wilson? Do we know yet? I don't know. I don't think so.
No, because Zach Wilson's not even in Denver anymore. So no, like Zach Wilson's in Miami this year. So
teams wanted Zach Wilson though.
I don't know. A side note, I definitely don't want to see another Taysom Hill in the league. Can we just let that? He can have that crown. It was a time in life and fantasy where it was great. No more. No mas. Please.
I mean, look, we're gonna have it again where there's gonna be some player that does multiple things, and then people are going to scream at us about positional eligibility.
Travis Hunter, welcome to the party.
Yeah, that's gonna be different though. I mean, I guess if you're in an IDP league potentially, that may have some impact, but this isn't like it's not gonna be like a Taysom Hill thing. Who was it? Was it Ty Montgomery? Who was the Packer?
Ty Montgomery. He broke fantasy that one year.
He absolutely broke fantasy one year. The great positional wars of 2016. We were trying to figure out what to do with Ty Montgomery, which, by the way, in Ty Montgomery's best season, he got you 805 scrimmage yards and 3 touchdowns, right? While people were screaming for him to be dual eligible, he also was not really.
Shows were dedicated to what position should he, and in retrospect, it's why did we care?
I almost quit Twitter. I was I can't deal with y'all arguing with me about this.
Was it it's that not year he fumbled on the kick return? He was a Packer and we won the game. I believe so.
Probably
2018.
All roads lead back to the Rams.
All things lead back to the Rams. It's almost like they're a malevolent multinational corporation that poisons their employees' brains and that sort of thing. Which I don't know why. There's no particular reason I mentioned that at all. So this show has sort of unofficially become kind of a Severance podcast here. It started because Florio and I have been talking about the show for a good year plus, and we convinced Laquan that he should be watching it as well. And we were surprised by how quickly you got through season 1, only to find out that you blew through season 2 in 48 hours, basically. So spoiler alert for anybody who has not finished the show yet,
including our producer,
Kyrie Douglas. You are welcome to hit stop, to walk away, what have you. We're going to talk about what happened at the end of season 2 because Laquan, I know, is on absolute fire after having watched it. So, look, just take it away. Your thoughts on season 2, the season finale, and all of that.
The finale was a masterpiece, man. And it was worth the hour and 21 minutes. And my favorite scene, we were talking in the chat, was when Mark was going back and forth with himself with the camera. That was such a great scene to where it's I can only imagine myself talking to myself and what I would think and how I would be talking to myself. But ultimately, at the end of season 2, where, spoiler alert, where, he gets Mark's wife out and they're at the exit door and then he hits that U-turn to his other girlfriend. It's yo, what are you doing? But we had a conversation, debate, me and Florio, about Innie versus Audi. And I am team Audi, bro. You're team Innie, but I am team Audi. Mark, he got his wife, but he didn't get himself out of that door. And if I'm telling myself, bro, I have 20 years with my wife. You got 20 minutes with your girlfriend. You better get my wife out of there. We're going to have some problems.
He did though.
He did.
He didn't get me out of there.
That's why I'm team Innie, because he did what was asked of him. The mission was get Gemma out. He did that. At that point, he had no more obligation to do anything else. And in fact, for the first time ever in his existence, he actually got to make his own choice for himself. He'd never been able to choose anything for himself previously ever before. And so he took an opportunity to make a choice for himself.
Now, pause. He did not complete the mission. She's just standing outside. She's still in the building.
But that's on her.
She's
that's
gone.
on her.
What?
His job was to get her out. That was the job. And
She's
the job is
building.
done.
That's not out.
But Audi Mark does some messed up stuff though. We were talking about this offline, but he tells him I started reintegration because it's unfair to you. No, you didn't, bro. You're lying to me right there. And also, you created me to be a prisoner in where all I get to do is work for these awful people that you now know are awful. And at no point, he even says, he's if you ever took a interest in my life. And what I loved is when he calls her Helena. He says he thinks his name is, and Innie Mark gets upset. It takes you back to when, no, he doesn't call her Helena. Helena's the Audi. But when the Audis are having dinner and Helena's oh, what's your wife's name? She says it the wrong way. And Audi Mark gets really upset. So you see that they're same kind of person, same reaction, all of that.
Yeah, no, I'm team Innie Mark all day. Also, Also, we should petition the folks at NFL Media to get a choreography and merriment department.
Mr. Milchick.
we need a choreography and merriment. We need somebody to lead a band. Instead of town hall meetings, we just have an HBCU band come and play, and then we all have waffles, and it becomes a thing. I'll say this: I know there's a season 3 coming. I look forward to it. If they decided that was just the way the show ended, I'm also fine with that.
No, I'll be angry. Because I'm going to be angry if season 3 starts and she's still in the building and she's back in the basement because he didn't.
I think it's going to be flipped.
Well,
that's her fault then.
No, why do you keep blaming the? Oh my God, that is
walk up the stairs, walk out. Like you're out of the building, and after Mark has gone around the corner, what are you going to do? Go away, call the cops, leave. Like it's at some point you still have the free will to go do things. Like if you stand there and you get arrested or you get captured and sent back in the building, it's kind of on you.
I will be so mad at my innie to where like I would just punch myself in the face every day. You're going into work bad and bruised.
But I want to know how they got Gemma there in the first place. You know, like how they had a fake body of hers to show Mark and stuff. I want to know that, but I think season 3 is going to be them trying to get Mark out because I don't think Lumen is going to allow Mark to leave anymore. Like, they clearly know too much.
You do have to figure because Mark, Dylan. I mean, we'll see what happens with Irving, whether or not Irving is just gone now. There's a lot. There's still some questions to be answered, but I also sort of fall into the opinion of so many shows now, especially science fiction or fantasy, feel the need to have to explain to you every last detail for every last character. And sometimes the world is just what it is. And it doesn't necessarily need an explanation. And I felt like it was a great ending to the season, but it also sort of could have, like, I don't know if you guys ever watched Watchmen on HBO, but I thought that was it was one season, and the way it ended was very much an open question of like, wait, what's happening? But also was the perfect way to end it because it let you sort of decide on your own what happened next. And I think sometimes we get too caught up on needing closure, and then when we get an ending, we're unhappy with that ending. Whereas you can come up with something in your head that's it was left to be up to the viewer, and then when the viewers eventually pressured the writer, he was like, spoiler alert, he's like, no, that's Tony dying, and then everyone hated that, and like, oh, Bert is a bad guy. I'm telling you, because Bert is a bad guy.
Fields is like, you worked there for 20 years, and then they're like, no, it's only been 12. And my theory is he's not severed at all. I think he's a mole as well.
I think he's a henchman, right? Where I don't think he's thinking about the morality of it. It's a job, and he's doing the job that he has been tasked to do. And I don't think morality.
He has mob mentalities, man. Just look at him.
No, it is. I mean, I don't think right or wrong comes into it. I think it's doing the job. I think that's all it is. But yeah, in the end, Bert ends up being a bad guy because the things he is asked to do are bad.
He's already said he was a bad guy before he worked there, which
well, that was the reason he is severed, because that was the reason he got severed, was to sort of.
I think he's lying. I don't think he's actually severed.
Nah, he's still a mobster.
Well,
from New Jersey.
These are all quick. We should put together a Google Doc of questions to send to Ben Stiller.
Have you guys seen all the stuff that the crew is getting to do now? I'm so happy for them. Like, because outside of Adam Scott, they're not household names yet.
Dylan was in Spider-Man. Do a backflip. His little sketchy voice.
But I'm just like, they're going to London. They're on every talk show you could think of right now. Awesome. Like, I'm hoping they get more roles. Like Mr. Milchick should get his Emmy right now. Adam Scott should get his Emmy right now. Like,
yeah, for sure. Yeah, it is very cool because I kind of like, I remember seeing Dylan on. He was on an early episode of Succession, where he gets made fun of he gets mocked.
There's a joke there because I thought I was watching Severance when Succession's on HBO.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
I do remember you said that.
Yeah, 5 minutes like this doesn't seem like the show they're watching.
I do recall that. Absolutely.
I've actually I've started Succession and then I gave up on it a couple episodes in.
Yeah, I mean it's worth watching, but they're all terrible people. Just know that going in.
Speaking of which, that's the White Lotus this season. I don't know if you guys have watched that.
It's on my list. I haven't gotten to season 3 yet.
It's interesting. It's weird. I'll tell you that right off the bat.
All right. Well, I'm still digging through the righteous gemstones, and then maybe I'll get to.
I've
the
heard
White
good
Lotus
things about that.
It's very funny. Very fun. Danny McBride is a master. So
I love him.
There you go. There it is. All right. There you go. So that's our wrap up on Severance. Now we have to find a new show to bully Laquan into watching or something. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Laquan, have you ever watched Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul?
I watched Breaking Bad, but you're going to be so mad. I never finished the last season.
All right.
What? That is the best season.
That's the best season.
I know. I never finished it. I got all the way to the point where they're on the run, and no.
What about Game of Thrones? The Sopranos?
No. Sopranos, I started it. But I didn't.
It's Jersey, man.
No, man. And I love Goodfellas. It's one of my favorite movies. The mob.
So didn't they shoot most of it in like Delaware or something?
A lot of it was in Queens, actually. Like my one fun story is I worked one day on the set of The Sopranos. And all I had to do was set up cones when cars would move.
Hey, so that's a job, man.
Yeah, they were like, "Hey, you want?" I was in college. They threw me like $100 or whatever. They were like, "Sit out here at like 6 a.m. on, and anytime a car leaves, throw a cone there."
All right. There you go. All right. So we can maybe next episode we can have more tales of Michael F. Florio as a network show stagehand or whatever. So anyway, there it is. Our little wrap up of Severance. Our little look at the quarterbacks in the draft. We will move on to the next position coming up. We're also efforting a number of different guests from a number of different venues, arenas. Try to give us some more insight into the draft and some of the prospects there. So stay tuned for all that as well. In the meantime, that'll do it for this edition of the NFL Fantasy Football Podcast. Stay happy, safe, and healthy. Do good and live well. Praise Kier. And we'll talk to you again on Thursday.